During October, we're showing staff picks for our Monday matinee here on Channel 6. And my selection, scheduled for October 10th, is John Frankenheimer's 1966 film about Formula One racing, Grand Prix. An active Formula One driver and constructor during that time was Orange County resident Dan Gurney. We're here in his All-American Raceways facility in Santa Ana, and to find out a bit about his thoughts about the movie Grand Prix. Dan, as that season began, did you folks know they were making a film about Formula One?
We had heard rumors that someone might try to do it, and we were hoping he would do a good job. Of course he did, but we never planned on it. And, you hear rumors, and until it actually happened, we weren't holding our breath.
How intrusive, if all, was the movie crew in your work and your preparing to race yourself?
I'd say that the way they went about doing it was minimum bother as far as we were concerned. Anything that was going to cause trouble, they tried to schedule it where we were not actively involved in their actual racing. So I thought they did a great job from that standpoint.
You actually appear in a close-up shot in one scene with a group of other drivers, I believe at a hotel, having a drivers' meeting discussing a safety issue. What kind of direction did Frankenheimer give you and the other fellows in that particular scene?
If I remember that scene correctly, we were sort of some sitting on a couch, some on a bench, and on two sides, and Graham Hill was supposed to come from here and walk over to here and say something. And each time he came by, I grabbed his pant leg and he kind of fell over and tripped. And yeah, I did that 3 times. They were not happy about that, but we were having a good time, and they finally got the scene going.
Drivers tend to be pretty tense guys, lots of stress out there. I guess a little levity sometimes breaks up the tension.
Oh, sure. The drivers were, some of them were camera hounds, really. They liked the idea that they might possibly appear in a movie, especially if it was going to turn out to be a good one. And but I think you've got to be a bit off your rocker to get in a racing car anyway, and that would show up on the stress times. Or if somebody was going to try, they're all competitive. So if someone pulls a joke, why the next guy's going to try and make a better one. So there you are.
One of the factors is so important in racing, and it's become more so in the last few years, is safety. You weren't wearing fireproof suits. I think you were the only one with a full face helmet. I think most of the cars, if all of them, did not have seat belts back then. That certainly changed a lot.
There's a lot in that. I don't know if that was a question or a statement, but it was the full face helmet. Actually, my first encounter was motorcycling here in Southern California at Ascot Speedway, and the motorcyclists there where the clay was make a really damaging piece if it hit you from off the rear wheel of a motorcycle head. And Bell helmets came up with this, what they call a full-faced helmet. Before that, guys would tie bandanas around their nose and face and have goggles with maybe quite a few lenses and everything. But once Bell came up with that, why it was like driving a closed car. You felt like you were really protected, and it was a real breakthrough. And of course, it immediately caught on in other parts of the world.
We have one scene in the film where, unfortunately, one of the lead actors, the character, is ejected from the car without seat belts. Did that happen sometimes in Formula One back then?
Seat belts were mandatory at the Indianapolis 500 and that's IndyCar racing and some stock car racing. But in Formula One, it didn't become mandatory until quite a long time later. So we all ran without seatbelts, and the reasoning behind that, which is pretty shaky, was that these cars caught on fire pretty often, and if you didn't want to get roasted, why, it'd be nice to get thrown out. So that was the basic great reasoning for it. But that was the level. They did have a lot of fires break out in the event of an accident.
We know that you had your own team back then racing in Formula One, but one of the plots in the movie is that a driver is concerned about getting fired. He may be at the end of his career. Back then, did drivers have agents and firm contracts, or was it more of a unspecific contractual arrangement with the owners?
I think the first one that comes to mind, I think Sterling Moss had an agent. Even today, I remember a guy named Ken Gregory. And but Sterling was a superstar in England and in Europe and over here for that matter. And but our contracts were either a handshake or some one paragraph on a piece of paper that we'd sign, and there were no attorneys involved. Even with an agent, unless he happened to be an attorney himself, I don't think it didn't evolve into what it is today by any means.
One of the drivers is contemplating retirement. I know that was a decision you made a few years ago. How did you come to that decision?
Well, I had been racing professionally, or racing, not even professionally, for 15 years. And towards the end, I'd show up at a race and I'd be kind of lonely because the guys that I'd been running with weren't there. And, you know, they were getting picked off reasonably frequently and, or unreasonably frequently. And that was I also won a race that where I didn't even feel particularly great about it. And that was a strange situation. Also, I had remarried and was starting a new family and all kinds of, and the old family, I felt it just wasn't fair to continue doing that forever. And if you don't have 100% intense desire to lay it on the line, you didn't want to go there like as a job with a lunch basket or something. So if you only have 90%, 95, 99% desire, I think it's time to quit.
You brought some traditions to racing. One, the use of aerodynamic devices, which we don't see in Formula One. The cars were pretty much cigar-shaped, and there wasn't a lot of wings and all those things we see today. But another tradition you brought to racing, and we see it in the film with the drinking of the champagne, you decided at one race that maybe spraying the members of the media and your co-competitors was a better use of that champagne. Talk about that tradition.
Well, as far as we can tell, the first time that took place was when A.J. Foyt and I won the 67 Le Mans 24-hour race in a Ford GT. And you know, I think that was either my 9th or 10th attempt. Probably was my 10th attempt at the Le Mans 24-hour race. I had led the race at that, but never won it. And well, wait a minute, I did do it. My wife keeps telling me, don't forget that you won the other class. What is like a Daytona coupe
right,
Ford?
Smaller size engine class.
Yes. Anyway, here I was. We won it, and we won it by a ginormous margin and set all kinds of records. And here we were, and they handed me this big magnum of champagne, and I thought, well, you know, I ought to do something with this thing. And down below, we were up on a platform, and the photographers were all shining up there, you know, their lenses and everything. And it just occurred to me, hey, they want to be part of this, so I'm going to let her rip. And that's what happened. And it was a big one. So in fact, it's right over here, and that's the very same bottle. Well, it caught on. I mean, we sprayed down Henry Ford, Hank the Deuce, they call him, and his new Italian wife, and all kinds of everybody we could get to. Why we let them have it, and it was a great moment.
Some people in retirement take up golf or painting or other activities, move to a retirement community. You're still active in designing a unique vehicle. You've always loved motorcycles, and you're now building a rather unique motorcycle right here in Santa Ana.
Well, yes, we're no longer in the racing car business, but we are doing prototype motorcycles, and they're kind of low and long and quick, and we call it the Alligator. And we have several different engine One is a Honda engine, one's a Yamaha engine, and the latest one is an S&S Harley style engine. And it's something I've wanted to do since I was a teenager, and finally getting the chance to do it, it's really fabulous.
Final question. So at the moment, there are no Americans racing in Formula One. There's a young man, Alex Gurney, out there racing today in some sports car races and other things. Do we see him possibly headed for Formula One in the future?
Without equivocating, I feel very confident he could do the job. He could really get it done. He's had a lot of bad luck in his attempts at getting noticed, but with his new partner Bob Stalling on this in the Grand Am racing, why he's getting a lot of recognition, and he's finally able to show what he can do up against a lot of very good competitors. So you can never say no.
Thanks so much for sharing your thoughts with us about Grand Prix. Again, that's Grand Prix, that award-winning film, and again with a cameo appearance by Orange County's own Dan Gurney. Again, that film will be seen here on Channel 6 at 2 p.m. on Monday, October the 10th.